Everyone, today we're going to look at creating sketches. So usually when people think of the word sketches, they're thinking of these really detailed drawings, and really sketches are really rough ideas of what you plan on doing. It's just a way to kind of map out and plan what you want your drawing or painting to look like. So there's not a lot of detail. There's a lot of gesture drawing and scribbling. And it's just a way for you to figure out what you want to do and to kind of play around with ideas and compositions to figure out what's going to look best. So to begin, you need your reference photos. So I have two here, and then I have others hidden that I'll pop up at different times. Okay, so I'm gonna look at these for right now. Actually, let's do this. You don't need to do, I'm doing this digitally so that you can see this a little bit better and it can pop through my visuals, and you can see my visuals at the same time. But for you, you can do this just on a blank sheet of paper with a pencil. You can even do it with a pen if it helps you prevent erasing and getting too detailed. So the first step is figuring out the orientation of your paper. So you might want to have something vertical, which this is called portrait. Or you might have a piece of paper that's horizontal, and this is called landscape. And you get to decide what direction you want your paper to be. All of your sketches could be portrait, all of your sketches could be landscape. That's really up to you. So when you're coming up with your sketch, you might want to start playing with your composition. So you're gonna have to go back and watch the composition video, but you'll get to decide where you're going to place things. So I have these two figures, and I'm going to do kind of like a fantasy scene, I think. And, so maybe I have my little girl here. She's got her one leg kind of kicked out. Notice I'm not adding a lot of detail, but I'm just deciding where to put her. But I think I'm going to make these little fairies. These characters fairies. So maybe this fairy is just kind of splashing through a river. Maybe I have some water here. And then my other fairy, maybe she's, floating in the sky. And those arms are too long, but it's okay because this is just a sketch. And I give her some fairy wings, but she's maybe dancing in the air while flying. And maybe I have a wolf kind of hanging out too, or no, I think that's that's a fox. And maybe I have a fox that's hanging out here with the character, and it's watching maybe it gets cut off by the page, and it's watching the fairy dance up on top. And then maybe I start coming up with my background. So let's see. Maybe I have some tree back here, and I have these rocks back here. Maybe that's one idea. So again, it's really rough. Maybe in this one, I want to start with my landscape, and I just have like the tree here. I have my shrubbery, my branches. And then, let's see, maybe get rid of those. And then this one, so maybe throw another line here. I have the one fox. Here. Looking towards that tree. And then maybe I have another fairy, and maybe she is by the tree doing this weird, maybe she's a fairy doing yoga. Maybe that's all I have for that one. And then I need a few more. So when you're doing sketches, you want to do a lot of them. Because now maybe I take these two ideas and I just play with the composition. So instead of this one being portrait, maybe I try to figure out what it looks like in landscape. Maybe this one, instead of landscape, I try to see what it looks like in portrait mode. Or I can come up with completely different sketches and play around with it even more so. Maybe I have a tree framing this edge. Maybe I have the other tree framing this edge. Maybe I have some water running through, separating these two. And then maybe I decide to start putting in my characters. So maybe I have that little fairy from the first one kicking up her foot. And then maybe I place the other one here stretching, or in that weird funny pose. Notice they're really rough sketches. I'm not really going into details. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm placing this. Now, if we're looking at composition, let me actually get a different color here. If I take my paper and I divide it into thirds, I'm playing with rule of thirds. It's kind of my go-to composition for a lot of things. It's a very successful composition. It's also can be considered asymmetrical, but I can choose my compositions. So this one is definitely a rule of thirds. This one I would say is more just asymmetrical rather than symmetrical, rather than rule of thirds. This one I would say is rule of thirds. So you want to write down what